Hey, 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 happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, gaminggang.com, which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. This is live show 1295. If you're not familiar with this, if you're kind of wondering what the hell's going on here, super casual, just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. Normally we skew into role-playing games for the most part. Tonight, got a little different news piece in the mix. You'll know why in just a few moments. But still, we're just hanging out, having fun. We are certainly not engaged in rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. Nope, just talk about tabletop role-playing news for the most part, and then I will pontificate on a topic related to our hobby. Maybe I'll do an AMA. Then again, maybe I'll just chew the fat with chat. But tonight we do have a topic. I am going to discuss various spacefaring science fiction role-playing games. That is an important distinction, spacefaring, because science fiction is a huge genre. So we're going to talk about spacefaring SF and how to pick the right role-playing game for you, because there are a lot of them out there. People ask me questions about them all the time. We're going to talk about that. And of course, I will be welcoming your thoughts alongside mine. Very nice. Very nice. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, anytime you see a news piece on the show, know that it's already up on the website. I've kind of changed that process around a little bit. So if you're watching the show and you're like, hey, that sounds kind of cool, I want to check that out, just go to thegaminggang.com. You'll see the news piece right there on the front page. Bang, go to town on it. There you go. There you have it. Pretty easy. Then, of course, because this is a live stream, there's also chat available. Now, you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 60 minutes before you can take part in chat. But if you check off that box and you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, comment, fire away. I will do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Kevin R. Smith. The Madman is with us. He is one of our chat moderators. Cthulhu is joining us, as is Reading Aid, Boomer Man Dan Webb. Let's see who else we got. James Mitchell, J-Man is also popping on in. And I'll take a guess, the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D might be lurking in the shadows as our other chat moderator. Very well could be. Should mention, if you did not catch the first look video today, I shared of Infernal Machine from GMT Games. I'll tell you what, it's a pretty damn impressive looking game. It's a solitaire game. It is about essentially the birth of submarine warfare during the American Civil War. You're playing an inventor slash entrepreneur slash captain who's trying to design a submarine and put it into action against the enemy You can play as the Confederates, or you can play as a supporter of the Union. Very impressive. Very impressive looking game. I'm going to have to check it out. It is solitaire, so thankfully I am not up, relying on the whims of the gang to get together to check that one out. So if you have not seen that unboxing, by all means, take a peek. Also should mention you still have time to get into the running to win my extra copy of the Pirate Borg starter set in shrink. This is the one that I reviewed, as well as a copy of Down Among the Dead, both from Limithron and Free League Publishing. Just check out my review of the Pirate Borg starter set, tell you how to get into the contest, and I'm going to reveal the winner on March 10th during the live stream. A lot of videos out there. I got a lot more videos coming as well. And Sarah D is hanging with us tonight. Very nice. Strike Kismet and W Forge are also popping on in. Dan Webb says, yes, they just received a copy of Infernal Machine. Woohoo! And Kevin King is joining us. Chat is off and running already. So let's catch up with chat and start talking about the news, because today, Modiphius Entertainment revealed Fallout Wasteland Warfare 2.0 is slated to arrive this summer. Here's the announcement. Publisher of tabletop games, Modiphius Entertainment, has today revealed the first products for its upcoming second edition of the Fallout Wasteland Warfare miniatures game, set to release in the second half of 2026. As part of this year's Gamma Expo, Modiphius has unveiled the two starter sets launching this year, the Into the Wasteland Solo starter set and the Warbands starter set. Expected to launch in Q3 of 2026, the Into the Wasteland Solo starter set is designed for players wanting an introduction to the core solo experience with all the rules to play, as well as the Into the Wasteland rulebook, which specifically adds custom heroes, creatures of the wasteland as enemies, and a system for generating thematic regions in their campaigns. Ideal for new players and expected to launch in Q4 of 2026. The Warband starter set will have a similar look and feel to the original first edition two-player starter set, containing PvC Survivor models, PvC Super Mutant models, tokens, cardboard scenery, and the main rulebook and reference book. Modiphius has also announced that the first few miniatures for the second edition of Fallout Wasteland Warfare will be two multi-part plastic sets of Vault Dweller heroes. One set will contain 4 male figures. One set will contain 4 female figures, with multiple options for different armor and weapons. Alongside the already existing plastic kits and resin range, Modiphius will be releasing a range of encounter boxes to retail. These sets will contain pre-assembled PvC models themed by a regional threat or faction. These PvC sets are intended for players who just want to get playing and are more accessible for those just getting into miniatures games, providing rules to help represent the iconic wastelands of this series on the tabletop, including New California, the Mojave, the Capital Wasteland, the Commonwealth, including Boston, Appalachia, and others. The Wasteland Compendium will also be released in early 2027. The second edition of Fallout Wasteland Warfare is set to launch 8 years after the first, with this edition incorporating years of insights from the community, refining the game that existing players know and love, whilst making it more accessible to new players. The only image that they released, well, they released 2, the one you're looking at right now, and another coming soon image, which I'm taking a guess might be the artwork for the solo box set, that solo starter set Into the Wasteland. So it's kind of like, so everything else I just had to share some other Fallout Wasteland Warfare releases. Otherwise, you'd just be staring at the coming in 2026 splash. So there is that. I mentioned it before. I think for a lot of people, it's a little confusing because Modiphius Entertainment has Fallout Factions, and then it also has Fallout Wasteland Warfare. And yes, I understand they're completely different rule systems. One is more of kind of a, I've been told it's sort of like a Necromunda. Like, okay, so you've got your gang, your faction. And then the other is more kind of free flowing. But like I said, I don't know for certain. I did get a chance to check out the original starter set for Wasteland Warfare. I thought it was pretty impressive, although miniatures, I mean, those minis that were in there were certainly 28 millimeter. So I know nowadays they're all like 32 millimeter, 34 millimeter, get a little more real estate to paint. So it did seem kind of small, but detail level was really nice. So there was that. All right, let's see who else has popped on into chat. Kathy Evans is with us. Matthew Blackwell and Pete Drakulich are all popping on board. So Reading 8 says, yeah, it confused me when I first heard of it. Yeah, because they did Wasteland Warfare. And then a few years later, out comes Fallout Factions. It's sort of like, for a minute, people thought, oh, is that replacing Wasteland Warfare? Well, no, it didn't. We shall see. We shall see. Mark Hawkswell has also joined us tonight. Moonlight Long, now in print and PDF for Level Up Advanced 5e, is Pets and Sidekicks. I've got the latest from EN Publishing. Join the party. Have you ever wished a beloved pet or NPC ally could join the party, not just for an adventure, but as a permanent companion? In Pets and Sidekicks, you'll find rules for leveling up that wild owl bear, dragon hatchling, or unexpectedly popular goblin scout. Pets and Sidekicks contains rules for befriending and training NPC companions. New options for every class. Wizard familiars, herald steeds, ranger companions, wild druid, wild shapes, and more. Heroic features and flaws to customize your companion or upgrade your opponent. Equipment and magic items from training treats to epic figurines of power, as well as nearly 200 easy-to-run self-leveling stat blocks from Adept to Zombie. This 228-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $75. Yeah, you heard me correctly. $75. If you want to grab just the PDF, that is available right now as well. It is over at Drive-Thru RPG for $24.99. That's why I was kind of thrown by the MSRP being $75. But I thought, maybe it's $49.99. Nope. I double checked. I went over to the publishing website, I should say, publishing website. It is $75. Danny Gable and Laconic Lane are both with us tonight. Laconic Lane says, games with minis look like hard drugs to them. I can't be experimenting with that type of debt. That is true. It is an investment. I've explained that to my nephew because he likes, I don't even know if he's really painting them, but he's been picking up minis. I haven't seen my nephew in a while, but I've told him, I'm like, be prepared, man. This is not an inexpensive hobby to have. And even, I mean, back when I was into miniatures, they were a hell of a lot less than they are now. Pretty wild. All right, moving right along. Catalyst Game Labs has teamed with Humble Bundle for a Shadowrun 4th edition offer, and I have got the deets on the deal. The future like you've never imagined it before. Calling all deckers, act now to get the complete collection of Shadowrun 4th edition ebooks. No hacking required. Immerse yourself in the lore of your new home with the Sixth World Almanac. Learn the tricks you need to master street magic. Build your team with the Runner's Companion and Arsenal. And kick things into high gear with the anniversary printing of the Shadowrun 4th edition core book. There are almost 100 files to explore, from lore books to guides on corporate intrigue, parabotany, and mission modules. So get this bundle uploaded into your cyber deck ASAP and support the ACLU with your payment at the price of your choice. You can jump aboard for as little as $5, or you can go all in for a minimum donation of $25 to score all 90 items. Not sure why they were saying nearly 100. I mean, it's 90 as far as I could tell. And yes, Kevin R. Smith is asking, is this the whole Shadowrun 4th edition run? It is. To my knowledge, it is everything that was published for Shadowrun 4E. So you can pick that up in PDF, $25 or more. It's a donation, so it's completely up to you. But I will mention it was just about, there you go, Dan Webb says, almost 91 items. Yes. I always get when it's like, the sell sheet info will say like 35 plus magic items, and you look and it's like 36. So you couldn't say 36, 35 plus. But a little more than a year ago, there was a bundle of holding for Shadowrun 4th edition. It had the highest tier, the one that changes, right? The threshold price that changes. When I posted the news piece, it was $33 and change for 25 PDFs. This is $90 for 25. If you've had any interest checking out Shadowrun at any point, this would probably be it to introduce you to all of this content at a very, very small price. Let's see. Pete Straklich asks, was 4E the worst Shadowrun, or was it 6th? As Kevin R. Smith points out, this is what I've also heard. This is the one that people liked. This was like the most popular of the Shadowrun editions. Well, from my understanding, this is the edition that really delved very deeply into the lore. I don't think any other edition had as many releases for it as the 4th edition of Shadowrun. I will be the first to point out, I have not checked out Shadowrun since 1st edition when it came out for FASA. So I'm not exactly going to be a source of great information when it comes to Shadowrun, even though I do share news from Catalyst Game Labs and stuff like that. But I did review did I even go through with the review? I'm trying to remember. I think I may have, for the starter set for the 6th edition, which was an absolute mess. Mark Coxwell says they've heard all editions of Shadowrun are a bit rough. I still had to buy in at $25. At least there's a ton of inspiration they can use for other systems. Of course. Pete Straklich says, 1st edition is the best. Yeah, that's what I had. I would pick up the Splat books. Another one of those games, it was coming out right about the same time as Vampire the Masquerade being hot. So yes, as I've discussed before, I used to pick up Splat books. Of course, core books as well were role-playing games that came out that I never ran. I just enjoyed reading them. And then usually I'd find something I could steal to throw into a Call of Cthulhu game, even if it was not a cosmic horror role-playing game. Reading Aid says they love 6E. Also, the new Anarchy 2.0. Stray Kismet said they drove a bus converted into a bar called Soulbriety in Shadowrun. Nice. So, yes, Kevin R. Smith said most people will probably say 6th edition is the least favorite that's out there. Moonrise Long, launching today on Kickstarter for Exalted Funeral, is Tavers, the Meow Wolf role-playing game. Here's the scoop. Players take on the role of Tavers, beings with a connection to Source, the raw creative energy flowing through everything. By harnessing that energy, they're able to do some really cool stuff, far more than just opening portals. They dare to manifest impossible ideas that defy logic, shift perception, and reshape reality itself. The core book includes 5 main story arcs, each of which will deliver hours of gaming delight. Among the hyper-colored pages, you'll find a bevy of new and original Meow Wolf characters, along with a huge assortment of locations getting the same lavish treatment. The original system was crafted specifically for exploring the strange and unknown universe of the multiple worlds of Meow Wolf. The Tavers game mechanics include collaborative storytelling. Players and storytellers work together to build an experience that integrates each participant in varied play styles. Everyone takes notes and doodles on a shared sheet that keeps the whole group engaged in the gameplay. There's tactile inventory management. Every item you acquire comes in a variety of fun shapes and must fit on your character sheet like a puzzle mini-map. Oh, a little Mausolita inspiration right there. Backstory-fueled skills. Group-created memories or dreams called memes or mems. I guess it's probably mems. Probably a takeoff on rems. Provide an ever-fluctuating skill system based on the words used in a round table tale weaving. There's goal-oriented character progression. Every character has individual goals to scheme towards. Accomplishing them unlocks future potential. Key action types help guide character choices and award story progression when utilized. It is dice light, art forward. Tavers uses 2d8. We call them octahedrals for determining the outcome of searching for clues, events, and anomalies. The outcome of the story, however, is always in the hands, paws, claws, or whatever of the players. Now, there is a Kickstarter video. It stars my pal Tiger Wizard from Exalted Funeral. So let's give it a peek.
Let's play.
Oh, hey, thanks for stopping by. We're really excited to share a new kind of tabletop role-playing experience with you. Oh, you're absolutely right, Mama Larva. I'm talking about Tavers, the Meow Wolf role-playing game. Ah, crap! The logo's melting. Somebody left the refrigerator door open. But that's okay, because when you're playing Tavers, sometimes you just gotta follow the weird, see where it goes. Well, you might be thinking, what the heck is a Taver? Well, friends, a Taver is a being with the ability to access the source, the origin point of all creativity. And when you assume the role of a Taver in our game, Tavers, you can do some pretty wild stuff, like opening portals to all the many worlds of Meow Wolf and beyond. You will build a story and an experience that you won't soon forget. Think of it like a collaborative drawing or an exquisite corpse, but for role-playing games. Each Each player adds their own piece, and together you create a wild, fun story, like a puzzle, one wonderful, weird shape at a time. Oh, thank you. Want to learn how to play? Well, come on.
Oh man, I'm tripping balls. Tavers, the Meow Wolf role-playing game, is already fully funded, if funded in minutes. You can reserve a copy of the box set with PDFs for a $65 pledge. If you want just the core book, $45 pledge with the PDFs. Now, if you just want PDFs, you can do that for a $25 pledge through April 3rd. Expected fulfillment on this is this December. Pretty bizarre. Mark Edwards is with us, says, hey, Jeff, Tavers looks like some kind of fever dream. I'm into it. Yeah, well, you know, drop a gummy or two. Well, probably not two. I wouldn't say get a gummy. Let's just say a gummy. You might find yourself really experiencing that. Maybe not. All right. Yeah, I gotta say that's pretty wacky. Pretty wacky. On to our final news piece, because Angry Golem Games has released their latest fortnightly adventure, The Drowned Relic. Here's what I know. The small village of Trotsman kept a secret passed from mother to daughter until a rebellious young woman revealed it. Meanwhile, two Sahuagin women cast a powerful spell. A tsunami struck, destroying the dock, killing many workers, and sinking the village, which was later abandoned by the survivors. Now considered cursed by greed, the ruins are claimed by the Sahuagin, who seek to recover their people's lost relic at any cost. Welcome back, adventurer! This adventure series continues with its 7th release, even though it's number 6. All right, I don't know. After exploring the desolated, forsaken Reserva, you can now dive into a region of salt rock and strange creatures. You're invited to brave the salty and the rocky, uncover the mysteries of the coral golem, explore the Sahuagin Cathedral for treasures and secrets. The Drowned Relic is an adventure for characters of levels 2 to 4, designed for use with old school essentials. Inside this tale, you'll find 4 different locations with hidden treasures, creatures, and hooks, a distinct dynamic of exploration. So I guess there's a bit of a hex crawl, I think, involved with this. And a brand new creature, the aforementioned Coral Golem, complete with statistics and an original illustration. This 16-page PDF is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $4.95. It's kind of interesting. Thought that would that'd be pretty interesting there. Yeah. You know what? I'm trying to get more coverage out there for wee bitty companies that you would never stumble across, which I have stumbled across, because that's how I found out about a lot of this stuff. It's kind of, oh, hey, what's this? And, about 8 times out of 10, it's sort of like, AI, eh? No, thank you. This, of course, has been indicated no AI used, that this was made by human beings. And I like to promote human beings and their games. Dan Webb said for the full experience for Tavers, it's $125. That includes herbicals to get you there. Yes. Yes. I will say it looks very art punky. Probably not my bag of tricks. But that's just me. That's just me. I'm way too uptight for games like that. Yeah, right. If it doesn't use a 20-sided die, I can't play it. Let's see. Troy Cornelson's joined us tonight. Welcome aboard. So that's it for the news. Of course, I mentioned Drive-Thru RPG a few times. Don't forget, the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go stop by Drive-Thru RPG, Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, Wargame Vault, any of the numerous One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And all those commissions do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. While we're on the topic of Drive-Thru RPG, keep in mind it is GM's Day. Their sale is going on. I think it runs about a week. We're already in the midst of it, so keep that in mind. But you'll find thousands upon thousands of role-playing game titles for up to 40% off. There are also some bundles and some special offers. I will tell you, the campaign book for Dolmenwood is 65% off. Pretty sweet. I wish the whole experience of those core books was. That'd be a pretty nice deal. Although, of course, I've got it. I mean, it's right there over my shoulder. That is the player's book, though, not the campaign book. But yep, if you're looking to save some money, speaking of saving money, tonight's topic, we're going to talk about spacefaring science fiction games and how to pick one that's probably going to be right for you. And I went to go check Fanatical because they had a classic Traveler bundle going before that had, I don't know, 110 PDFs. I think it was like $18. It is no longer going. But I also noticed that I look like as of today, they've launched like 4 or 5 new role-playing game bundles. So you're going to be seeing a lot of Fanatical news tomorrow and into next week because I think Ruins of Symbaroum is one. There was another Free League Publishing one. I think was the old Coriolis? Might have been. But yeah, I was like, oh, holy cow. And of course, I already had all my news for today. So I was like, well, I'm not going to move stuff around just to talk about those sales that are going to run for like 2 months. So Kevin R. Smith says, even the $5 level of that Shadowrun bundle has a whole bunch of rule and setting material. Looks like you mostly had adventures at the higher levels. Nice. You know, one game I would like to check out, I'd like to check out the Anarchy 2.0. I always liked Shadowrun. I like the premise of Shadowrun. Back in the day, it was pretty unique. I guess it's still fairly unique. And like a mashup of cyberpunk and fantasy. But I wouldn't mind, because it's my understanding that Anarchy is sort of like a rules light Shadowrun. In fact, it's not even designed by Catalyst Game Labs. It's another game company that does it. So I don't know. And I guess you can use, like Shadowrun Adventures and things like that. Kevin R. Smith said, like they said earlier, they need to take a look at that Anarchy 2.0 PDF. Nice. Very nice. All right. So I should also mention, if you like this video, give it a quick thumbs up. If you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, got a couple of other ways that you can support the outlet outside of the One Bookshelf site's affiliation. First of all, you can make a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. You can also become a monthly member of our Patreon. But I almost pulled it off. Almost pulled that off. People were probably sitting there like, what is he doing? Isn't he supposed to say, isn't he supposed to go, oh, yummy or something? What is he doing? What's wrong with him tonight? Told you when we got into just doing the news and stuff, I'd be a little sillier and goofier. Because I don't have to worry about somebody being like, hey, you're doing a first look at our game and you were acting like a complete asshole. Yeah, well, sorry. Anyway, so you can also become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links in the show notes. Also in the show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. It is absolutely free to sign up. Be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. And Coco B is popping on in. They jumped on in late last night, I saw. So, Cool Cup Gaming Gang guy. It's the Gaming Gang. Times I got, see that? See the T? See the T? Coco B. Hey, it rhymed. How about that? DB is with us as well. Says, looked like I missed a good one yesterday. Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. That's the first movie I ever walked out of. DB said, just tripping. Nah, I'm just goofing off. It has been a wacky few days. If you missed last night, I had mentioned, talk about having rotten luck, right? Not me personally, but my sister-in-law, who's married to my brother. It's the only sister-in-law I've got because it's the only brother I've got. Only sibling I have. Her nephew is one of the casualties in Kuwait. Well, now he's in Germany. And they had heard that his eye socket had been smashed, had been obliterated, I guess. His arm had been broken, and then he had a chunk blown out of his leg. So this was at the point where there were 3 fatalities and 5 serious injuries. So he was one of those 5 serious injuries, right? For some reason, I thought yesterday it was Dubai, but it wasn't. It was Kuwait. I guess the attack in Dubai, there weren't any casualties or no reported casualties. So then the death toll jumped to 4. So it was like, well, there's 5. Her nephew's one of them. Those aren't great odds. Well, thankfully, he survived it. They're not sure if he's going to be blind in one eye or what, but isn't that bizarre though? Out of all the people in the world, it's like out of those 5 casualties in Kuwait, he happens to be one of them. That was just crazy. And of course, it was like information, I guess, was really slow getting out. But I heard from my brother today. I talked to him, and he said that her nephew actually got a chance to talk to her brother. So that was good. So fingers crossed. And we will not get into anything else related to that. Coco B says, don't. I've only been watching for years. Dan Webb says, yeah, I got to sort down to the T's to be the TGG on YouTube. So DB says, damn, that's terrible. Sorry. Yeah, but I mean, those things happen. Conflict breaks out. There are gonna be fatalities. There are gonna be casualties. just how things work. Doesn't matter how many drones that they start throwing out there. Sadly, thankfully, the loss of life is minimized, but there is still loss of life. And also, very sadly, much of it tends to be on the civilian side of things in this kind of shit. So, anyway, Dan Webb says, we need to keep in mind how small the world is. Yes, it actually is. It's pretty small. Pretty small. All right. Anyway, so back onto that's why I'm kind of silly tonight, is because like heard from my brother and then I was like, well, that was a relief. So, I mean, I don't really know the guy. I probably met him once in my life, but still, it's, my sister-in-law. We share a birthday, amazingly enough. Anyway, so tonight we're going to talk about spacefaring science fiction role-playing games, and I'm going to welcome folks who are hanging out in chat to chime in, toss their thoughts into the ring. If you are watching this after the fact, if you're watching on Memorex, share your thoughts in the comments as well, because we're going to talk about different spacefaring SF role-playing games and how to find what one might be the right fit for you and your gang. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Like Rower said, Rower.
Frosty, man, frosty.
It's Woolworth's Stereo Spectacular 71, a fantastic once-a-year sale of albums, LPs, tapes, everything in stereo, unbelievably low priced. Woolworth's Stereo Spectacular has top stereo LPs, the biggest hits just off the charts for only $1.57. Famous labels, favorite stars, Herb Alpert, Petula Clark, The Association, Canned Heat, many more for only $1.57. And another fabulous group of LPs on sale for just 87 cents. Jack Jones, The Beach Boys, Guess Who, and more. And for children, the original cast album of Sesame Street, only 87 cents. Woolworth Stereo Spectacular has big savings on 8-track stereo cartridges. Dionne Warwick, Lou Rawls, Glenn Campbell, Blind Faith, many more for only $2.99. Supplies are limited, so hurry over and save during Woolworth Stereo Spectacular 71.
Thank you for shopping, Woolworth. It's the fun place to shop.
This could all be happening right now, somewhere on this planet. It's the story of a UFO that has landed and visitors from a galaxy light years away. It's It's an adventure unlike anything on this planet. A weapon that might belong to us in the future, but is here now. Laser blast. It's the story of the boy who found it and the girl who tried to help him.
What about the lump on your chest?
And a world that tried to take it away.
They didn't know I noticed.
I want the town sealed off. No news leaks. No news, period.
Laser blast. It will blow your mind.
It'll blow you away. What a god-awful movie. I saw that movie on VHS. I was probably at 15, like 15 years old. Probably talking about like 82, somewhere around there. Oh, gosh. So bad. They misspell Roddy McDowell. Yes, Roddy McDowell is in that movie. Nah, he's not in it for much, but they misspelled his name in the credits. It's like, really? It's the only actor you have in this film. You can't even spell his name correctly. Yeah. I dare you. I dare you to watch it. You'll be sitting there wondering, what the hell is going on in this thing? Mike is with us tonight. Good to see you, Mike. And who else popped in? I may have not said hello to. Taking a peek. Well, I guess maybe I've said hello to everybody. DB says, so bad it's almost good. Yes, it's not one of those, oh yeah, it's awful, but it's awful in a good way. No, it's just awful. Straight Kismet says, no lasers were hurt in the making of this film. No, but plenty of brain cells died. That is for certain. All right. So tonight's topic, we're going to talk about spacefaring science fiction role-playing games and how to pick out one that might be the best fit for you. And the reason why I say spacefaring is because if I just say science fiction, then we could be talking about a whole lot of different things. We could be talking about time travel and Doctor Who. We could talk Planet of the Apes. We could talk about Gamma World and Fallout. Nope. We're going spacefaring because I've had people ask, what role-playing game would I recommend if they're looking to have a campaign like, say, Star Trek, but they don't want to use Star Trek Adventures? Or, hey, you know what? I really dig Star Wars. I want that space opera epic, but I don't want to go and invest all the money on the Star Wars role-playing game from Edge Studios. What would you recommend? So there are quite a few out there, and I am going to focus on games that are relatively well-known. So not just, oh, well, I heard about this. There are, there's one game in here that I've heard about that I'm not overly familiar with, but I have heard some pretty good things. Coco B is pointing out Laser Blast is on YouTube. Well, I guess Coco B's chiming on out. Good to see you, Coco B. They're like, oh, I gotta go watch that now. Denny Gable said drugs didn't even help that movie. No, partaking in them as you watched it, or those who created it, the ones they ingested, didn't help either. Chris Lundgren's popping on in. J-Man's pointing out Traveler. Yes, we're going to talk about Traveler. We're going to talk about 2 editions of Traveler that I would recommend. But Like as an example, we're not going to talk about Starfinder Second Edition, because to me, Starfinder Second Edition, that's space fantasy. It's not spacefaring. Because the reality is, in Starfinder, we don't even have the Starship combat rules yet. Those are still, everybody's still waiting for those. Whereas, like with Starfinder Second Edition and Starfinder itself, the whole space travel is kind of a little hand waving going on there. Yeah, you get there. Yeah, the ship takes you there. You're fine. Stray Kismet says they run Traveler, have an open sandbox of Clement Sector with a few players. James Mitchell asks, any good spacefaring games that use dice pools? We'll talk about that. Coco B said, I think Star Frontiers is the only one that they've played. Star Frontiers is one that we'll kind of talk a little bit about, because it's a classic and you can get the PDFs at fairly low price at Drive-Thru RPG. Pete Straklich says Mutant Crawl Classics. Nope. It's not a spacefaring role-playing game. That's what I just said. That's why we're not going to talk about like Gamma World, Fallout. They don't count. So Chris Leonard asks, what zany OSR style for science fiction that rarely gets mentioned but should? I have no idea what you're talking about. DB points out Stars Without Number just got a revised edition. Wasn't that a while back, though? From Sign Nominee, Kevin Crawford. Wasn't that a few years ago? Anyway, so let's discuss some. So if you're looking for a Star Trek, I got to be honest. I mean, Star Trek Adventures Second Edition, I don't know much about it because I haven't had an opportunity to actually take a peek into it. And I did check out the original Star Trek Adventures. I did review that. I liked it quite a bit. It is something that gets a good amount of support from Modiphius Entertainment for. And the stuff I had seen feels like Star Trek. Now, what people tend to be concerned about is the 2D20 system. And out of the games that I've had the opportunity to take a peek at, driven by the 2D20 system, I would say it's Star Trek Adventures and the no longer published John Carter of Mars that I would definitely say are probably the rules lightest of the bunch. But if you're looking for a Star Trek experience, then yeah, I would say most definitely go Star Trek Adventures. Same with Star Wars. Star Wars, you've got a few different options. And you've got the current Star Wars role-playing game, which was originally with Fantasy Flight Games. Now it's over with Edge Studio out of Spain. And I think the one thing I've heard people talk about the Star Wars role-playing game, that it's really good. And it does use its own special set of dice. But of course, you can also utilize a mobile device and an app to roll your dice with that. I think the one thing that kind of turns people off is if you want all aspects of Star Wars, you have to buy multiple core books. So the first core book that came out was like smugglers. So it was like your rogue types, but it was also about, archaeologists and things like that. It was characters that are kind of on the fringe. And then we had another core book comes out, and it's all about Force users. So if you wanted to have a Jedi character, you had to wait to get that book. And that's pretty much how it's stayed. It's remained that way. Where off the top of my head, I think there are 3 core books. If you want to do Star Wars with, force powers, and you want to have, your exciting starship combat and things like that, you need to have all 3 of these books. Can't tell you for certain. I've never had an opportunity to actually take a peek at them, but that is what I have heard. Daryl Arrett's with us tonight. They said they've got Alternity and Firefly, not sure which they prefer. Well, with the role-playing games that we're going to talk about, we want to talk about stuff that's accessible by newcomers. So if it's something that you have a copy of, but it's been out of print for years, it's kind of silly to talk about because someone who might be interested in it, they do not have a legitimate legal way to obtain that. Now, as far as Star Wars goes, you also still have the D6 Star Wars, which last I checked, I did not take an opportunity to take a peek to see if you can still get it. But at one point, there was still a website out there. You could essentially download all of the Star Wars D6 West End Games books absolutely free, and nobody was busting anybody's chops about it. And a lot of people love the D6 West End Games Star Wars. In fact, Magnetic Press Play is using a kind of a modified West End Games D6 system for their role-playing games, such as Planet of the Apes. So D6 was really popular, and something else that was pretty wild. Back in the day, the West End Games Star Wars game books and all the splat books and everything else that came out for it was canon. In fact, many Star Wars authors would rely on those source books for their novels. It's pretty wild. That is pretty wild. So with Star Wars, you've got options with Star Wars. Someone had mentioned Scum and Villainy. I believe, isn't that powered by the Apocalypse? For some strange reason, I thought it was. Mothership, I don't feel really falls into this category because that's more survival horror. At least that's its aim. That's why I wouldn't bring up like Alien, the role-playing game, for a segment like this, for this discussion. For one, it's not really spacefaring. I mean, yeah, you're on a ship, you're going someplace, but it's the whole space travel really isn't a feature of it. It's kind of like, well, it's just getting us to the planet where we're going to go fight the xenomorphs. DB said, yeah, the John Carter game practically has no rules. Had some really nice artwork, though. It was kind of weird how it was this landscape presentation, too. I didn't think that was very, very smart idea. So, Chris Lundgren says Far Trek RPG is totally free on their website. Can't get it as print on demand, but the rules are still free. Laconic Lane is talking about they've been tempted by Scum and Villainy, but never picked it up. Kevin R. Smith says, yeah, the FFG/Edge version of Star Wars does use a dice pool of custom narrative dice. Very nice. Space Opera. I had Space Opera. Never ran it. I think we created characters for it. And that was about as far as we got. And it's, oh man, it's been a long time since I saw a Space Opera. But it does aim to try to kind of have a Star Wars vibe to it. If I remember rules wise, it's a D20 resolution. I just swore, if I remember right, I thought the mechanics were a little clunky. Then again, we're talking like 1987 or something. So I'm like, no, actually probably before that. I think I was still in high school. So probably like 84 is when I picked it up. 83, 84. I think I picked it up when it first came out. I like the FGU games. I talk about it all the time. I still have that soft spot for Bushido. And yes, you can get Bushido over at Drive-Thru RPG. Clantos asks, what about Jack Vance's Dying Earth? It's not spacefaring. Trust me, I dig Dying Earth. In fact, earlier I was talking about how all of these bundles have rolled out at Fanatical today. The Dying Earth for Dungeon Crawl Classics is one of them. It's Dying Earth and something else. So I kind of have the feeling that it's possible that Goodman Games might be losing the license to do Jack Vance stuff. Like they let the license expire for the Fritz Leiber, Pfeffer and Gray Mouser. DB says, I think it's earlier than that. Oh, yeah, I'm just saying when I had it, when I picked it up, probably early 80s. FGU games were kind of weird. They were basically D100 systems, but mathed into a D20 system. Yeah. We've got Prime Directive. That is that still from Amarillo Game Studios? I think that's the name of the company. They're the ones that do Starfleet Battles. Daryl Eric says, Dropship is a new D12 based game by Blackwall Games. Okay, so if you are joining a little late, the premise is starfaring science fiction. So kind of more space epic science fiction, not military science fiction, not post-apocalyptic science fiction. That's why I mentioned spacefaring science fiction role-playing games so that we could not go like all over the place, right? Starborg is another that I keep hearing people talking about. Somebody had asked me, I think it was in a comment on one of the videos, if I was ever going to review Starborg. And I said, well, I don't have any relationship whatsoever with the publisher of it, so I doubt it. So it's like, if it doesn't get sent my way, I'm not, picking it up. I tell people all the time, there's a minimal budget here. So that's why, people will be like, oh, hey, are you going to pick this up? And it's like, no, not unless the publisher sends it. But yeah, I've heard good stuff about Starborg. So that would be fairly rules light because it's using the Mirkborg rule system, or at least it's built off of that. There's quite a bit of content out there for it as well, which I was kind of surprised to see. There are a lot of splats out there. So Keithulu says, yes, it's co-created by J.P. Kuvert and does use the Mirkborg system. Kevin King says they've had 3 good sessions of Frontier Space. Yes, which is a knockoff of Star Frontiers. Didn't they get a cease and desist for Frontier Space? I could have swore they did. Because I remember there was also like a zine that was out there. It was just a fanzine that was for Star Frontiers. Or maybe it was for Frontier Space. And I remember seeing the editor had posted that they had been told they had to shut it down. I was like, okie doke. So yes, we had Stars Without Number. So if you're looking for more of an old school vibe to your spacefaring science fiction proceedings, and once again, this is something else that I have not had an opportunity to really take a dive into to check out. But I've always been told that it is just jam-packed with very, very useful tables. So even if you don't want to use the mechanics, which to my understanding are fairly basic expert driven, I think, that you can certainly use the toolkit portion of Stars Without Number for whatever your role-playing game of choice might happen to be. Kim King says, yeah, their zine got killed, but Frontier Space has the serial numbers sufficiently filed off. Well, good deal. Very nice. Keith Lewis says they're curious about the Shadow Dark space science fiction game Dark Space. They were at Page, the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, and I didn't have an opportunity to talk to anybody about it because the booth they had set up, there were a couple of people sitting there, but they were just like friends of the creator. They were just kind of watching the booth. They weren't selling it there. So I was like, okay. Shred Kismet says Tiny Frontiers was a hoot. So that uses the Tiny D6 system. And it is from Gallant Knight Games, if I remember correctly. Star Frontiersman, I have heard that. Chris Lundgren says Time of War, the role-playing game from Catalyst Game Labs. Really well. Okay, once again, it's not spacefaring, Chris. It's always pushing that goddamn Battletech fucking role-playing game. I think Chris Lundgren works for Catalyst Game Labs. That's why he waited to come in. He waited till everybody was done ripping on the latest edition of Shadowrun. Then he popped in. Yeah. He's a shill for Catalyst Game Labs. Him and Buddy, the cockatiel. It's actually Buddy's the mastermind. I bet you. W4 says, I remember playing Star Ace from Pace Setter Games. That's a blast from the past. They had Chill. Didn't they have some, like a time travel role-playing game? Remember Quinto games? They did Swashbuckler, which, funny enough, I had this like really fond, nostalgic memory of Swashbuckler. And then I played it years ago at a Consim World in Tempe, Arizona. And it was like, wow, this is crap. This is awful. It was like, there's nothing going on. Chris Leinrich says, they did mention Space 1999 twice. See, something else that we want to look for is we want to look for stuff that's got support. So Space 1999 is pretty new. And all I know is that the core book is out. I would take a guess that for the most part, Space 1999 is probably going to be a one and done for Modiphius Entertainment. Maybe they'll roll out another supplement for it, but I don't really see Space 1999 really supporting a lot of future content. All right, so we were talking about Stars Without Number. Star Frontiers, obviously enough, it's classic, it's TSR. I thought it was all right. I thought it was okay. I thought in a lot of ways that Star Frontiers tried to capture a Star Wars vibe, but didn't really pull it off. Didn't do a great job of pulling it off. It was fine. It was all right, but it just didn't have a seat of the pants kind of feel to the proceedings, which is what it seemed like it was attempting to do. Yes, there you go. W. Forge says Man, Myth, and Magic was Yaquinto, and it was crap too. So if you are not familiar with the Yaquinto games, their big selling point was the game came in an album. like an LP. So you had the album sleeve and you would open it up and you would have the counters and rule book slid in to where an album would go. And then you'd open it up. There was your game board or your map or what have you. Only game that Yaquinto did that was actually decent was the Ironclads game. I'm trying to remember. I don't recall if it was called Ironclads or not. So yes. So Dan Webb says, well, you got Cepheus Engine, just play Traveler. Oh yeah, we're going to get to Traveler. So with Star Frontiers, there was decent support from TSR. And when they got into, wasn't it, what's it called? Alpha Knights, Nighthawks, or Alpha Hawks, or something like that. I think it was like a new edition, essentially, of Star Frontiers. I have no idea what happened after that. All right, I think we've had a couple of people popping on into chats. Oh, there you go, Troy Cornelson. Don't forget, Rules Heavy Space Master. Yes, from Iron Crown Entertainment. I'll take a pass on that one. Pliskin is with us, I believe. Yep. Let's see what else we have floating around. Coco B says they picked up Death in Space. That's pretty decent. Death in Space is pretty decent. It's also kind of a survival horror game. But yeah, I thought it was well done. Art Smith, that's who I was looking to see. Welcome aboard. So yes, no, yeah, it's starfaring role-playing games, science fiction role-playing. So post-apocalyptic, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about survival horror. We're mainly talking kind of like space opera would be what we'd be looking at, or like epic space adventures. We're not talking like Starfinder Second Edition, because that's space fantasy. Time Masters, that's the other pace setter game I was thinking of. Yes, Chill, Time Masters. I had Chill. Keithula says they've got the D20 version of Traveler. They can understand why Traveler fans didn't vibe with it. I'll tell you something that you may have run across. I don't think I'm going to share a news piece about it. There is crowdfunding. I don't know if it started the crowdfunding run yet or not. A 5e edition of Traveler is going to crowdfund. It is not crowdfunding for Mongoose. It is some other company I have never heard of. So it is most likely being licensed to them to do a 5e edition of Traveler. I gotta be honest. Alpha Dawn added space combat. According to Kevin King, says Zebulon's Guide was the one everyone hated. W. Ford says, I liked Zebulon's Guide. So yes, some more discussion about Dark Space. Bamboozled Great Crowd has joined us. Welcome aboard. Yeah, GURPS Space, that's fine. Yeah, I have no issue with that. You got Cepheus Engine. You also have Traveler. So if you were tuning in a little bit late, I was talking about some new bundles that popped up on Fanatical. And I was actually looking for the GDW Traveler bundle because they had, I swear, it seemed like it was probably like the full 1E and 2E runs from Game Designer Workshop for Traveler. And it was over 100 PDFs. And if I remember correctly, it was like $18. It was like $17.95. but it's gone. So I guess it ran its course, sadly enough. But yes, Traveler, I'm a big Traveler fan. I go way back with Traveler. The second edition of Mongoose Traveler is our current edition of Traveler, which I like. I think it was pretty cool. Dan Webb says, was it 101 PDFs? Yeah, something like that. It was a huge number of PDFs. And yes, I do understand that you will see some of the PDFs are probably not very good. Some of them are just probably pretty poor scans, but still 100 or so PDFs for Traveler. And let's be very honest here. The core mechanics of Traveler have not radically changed over the years. It's still essentially 2d6. You're rolling 2d6. You got modifiers. Add or subtract those to your die roll. You're looking at a target number. Boom. That's it. I mean, forever. Yes. So Dan Webb says, yes, over 100. Right. 101. 100 plus PDFs. But I think it was more than 100. And it, like I said, it seemed like it was the entire, Fanatical does that. Especially with like old GDW stuff. So they had the Twilight 2000 bundle about a year ago. And it was everything that had been published for first and second edition Twilight 2000 from GDW. And once again, it was, like 60 PDFs. It was something like $15. I was like, okay. Keith Ulu asks, does anyone remember Fast's Star Trek role-playing game? I played it. Elliot ran it. That was one of the games he ran. It was decent. It was pretty good. Bamboozle, great crowd, says Star Trek Adventures is great. We're talking about that Star Trek Adventures feels like Star Trek. Probably more like Star Trek than some of the more recent Star Trek shows have. But people get scared off by that 2D20. That's silly, I think. W. First says they bought the Twilight 2000, the 2300 AD, and the Traveler bundles over at Fanatical. Nice. We talk about this all the time. They are the best bundles. Humble Bundle used to be like hands down the best. In fact, we were talking about the Shadowrun 4th edition bundle going on right now, which is essentially everything that was printed for 4th edition Shadowrun for a minimum donation of $25. It's like, what was it? 90 PDFs, something like that. So pretty nice. W. Ford says the skill list in Fastest Star Trek would make newer players faint. Summer Buffo said they GM'd Fastest Star Trek. Yeah, it was pretty good. Fasta did a decent Doctor Who role-playing game. I remember having that. Oh my gosh, the number of role-playing games I had back in the day, just insane. It's just the games I had. Yeah. All right, so let's finish up with Traveler, and then we'll take a few more comments from folks in chat. Traveler is hugely supported. It's not a difficult system to wrap your head around. Mechanically, Traveler is, I don't want to say rules light because it's not, but it's not super complex. But where the complexity comes in is with the player characters. If they own their own ship, then all of a sudden it's like, wow, it's like I've now got a part-time job calculating all this stuff out. Because, you have to figure, especially if they're going to be like trading while they're traveling, across the galaxy. Yeah, then you got to start figuring all that stuff out. That's where all the complexity, at least in my opinion, comes into play with Traveler. And I think with Traveler, what scares people off is they've heard about the complexities of like, well, okay, so if the travelers have their own scout ship, ruh-roh. But if that's not super important to you and your group, as a game master, you can just do some hand waving, right? Don't have to worry about that so much. But I think that is one of the things that scares people off from Traveler. I think the other thing that scares them off is that it's been around for so long. People think, oh my gosh, there has got to be just tons and tons of stuff that I'm going to have to know as a game master as far as the background of the Third Imperium and everything else. I don't think that's the case. I don't really think that's the case. And the reality is, Traveler is modular enough that you can take the mechanics of Traveler and plug them into really any sort of science fiction role-playing game. We're not just talking starfaring either. So, and then of course we also have the Cepheus engine, which uses the Traveler mechanics. It's more tied into classic Traveler than Mongoose Traveler, but the differences are very minor. I'm not familiar with the Cepheus engine. I have not really tried to get on board with Gozer Games because I could have swore I ran across some stuff where they were using AI. And if you're not super familiar with Gaming Gang, I don't promote publishers or creators who use AI in the creation of their products. If I know about it, it's like, no, I won't. And yeah, some people get mad at me about that because they're like, well, you know, I'm just one person. It's a small company. I can't afford artwork. I don't know. Other people do. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But I remember some other people in chat one time were saying, no, they don't. Gozer doesn't use AI. And, you know, to be honest, I'm so busy doing all different stuff. I don't really like reaching out to companies that don't know me, or maybe they know me, but I'm not one of these, hey, type of people. The Tabletop Scholar says, your show, your rules. It's my website. That's the more important thing. I think that's something else that I think a lot of folks who pop in, they watch the videos, they watch the shows. I don't think they realize that the videos and stuff, this is just a bonus, right? On top of the website. It's the website that carries the water around here. All right. So I'm sure we've had a few more people pop into chat. So let me see what's cooking here. But as far as Traveler, I love Traveler. I think Traveler is great. Traveler might not be the best science fiction role-playing game for someone to get involved with if you're on a budget. Once again, I tell people all the time, keep your eyes peeled on the bundle websites, the Fanaticals, the Humble Bundles, and yes, Bundle of Holding, although Bundle of Holding never has like the big, holy shit bundles, you know, where it's like I was talking about the 4th edition Shadowrun a year and a half ago or so. Bundle of Holding had a 4th edition Shadowrun bundle, and it was just 25 PDFs, which is a lot for a Bundle of Holding. Whereas now there's the Humble Bundle Shadowrun 4E, and it's like 90 PDFs for less money. So anyway, so yes, we got the Tabletop Scholar joined us. Who else? Let's see. I already said hello to Pliskin. Themlasu. There you go. Hello. I always try to say hello to everybody who takes time out to pop into chat. Said Traveler Cepheus is their favorite science fiction system. They also like Stars Without Numbers. That would be a fantastic team up use a lot of the tools from Stars Without Number. At least that's what I've been told. And use that with Traveler or Cepheus. I think that would work really, really well. Keith Lewis said, in the case of their Star Trek and Doctor Who RPGs, Facet did a lot of what's commonly known as making shit up, as W. Forge points out, but often it was good shit. Yeah, that's true. They kind of, they went their own direction with the licensing there. So there was that. Danny Gable says, love dead characters at creation. That's more an optional thing now with Traveler Second Edition. So you don't necessarily have to kill off your character. Hey, you're pushing your luck, right? So I always thought it was kind of funny that we had, well, we were rolling up Traveler characters. This is when we were kids, right? Well, not kids, but teens. And it was like, all right, I'm gonna push it a little further with this character here because I want to get more skills. He'd be like 60 years old. All the characters would be like 60. Tabletop Scholar says, just noticed the tunnels and trolls in the background. They're doing another crowdfund release too, right? Ooh, man, that's a sticky wicket there. So it is what, Rebellion Unplugged purchased the rights to Tunnels and Trolls. There is a quick start that's out there. I did an interview with, off the top of my head, I can't remember his name. He had been with Osprey Games because Rebellion Unplugged is out of England, if I remember correctly. So that Kickstarter is coming. I think it's this month, to be honest. And I'm not sure if I am going to share a news piece about it or not, because it's really not Tunnels and Trolls. It's Tunnels and Trolls in name only. And, Rick Loomis has been gone for a while now. It's got to be, 5 years? Maybe a little more than that. And I know Ken St. Andre, I've heard from someone in chat that his health is not the greatest. So he probably doesn't want to put up much of a fight about it. Although I had heard last summer that he was kind of putting up a stink about the new edition of Tunnels and Trolls. I don't know. W. Forrest asks, would Coriolis count as spacefaring? I would say so. Only reason why I didn't mention Coriolis, and I know someone was curious about dice pool. So of course Coriolis uses the year 0 engine. So yes, that is a dice pool. There just isn't enough out for it yet. Although, if you saw my review of the Flowers of Elgarob, that campaign that just came out is excellent. But you're kind of locked into that campaign. That's what's available for Coriolis, the Great Dark. And the original Coriolis, like I said, I think it might be part of one of the Fanatical bundles that I saw. I'll have some news tomorrow about at least one of the bundles from Fanatical. Art Smith says Alternity was solid. Few people have been talking about Alternity there. D20 Future add rules to play Star Frontier Aliens. Semper Buffo points out that Star Trek FASA had some great published adventures. I think I checked out one of them. I think Elliot had bought maybe 2 of those. So W4 says, kudos to Jeff for not saying Eltron. Why would I say that? I know why. I would just say Charlie. Well, that's why the movie's called that. So people did have to try to pronounce Algernon. Anyway, so as far as spacefaring science fiction role-playing games that I would recommend people taking a peek at. If you're looking for a Star Wars vibe and maybe, don't have a whole lot of money to spend, still got the West End Games D6 Star Wars. Last I saw, there was a website that has all of the Star Wars D6, the West End Game Star Wars, available in PDF, absolutely free to download, and it was not violating any copyrights as far as I understand, because damn well somebody would have cease and desisted that ASAP. And I know that website's been around for years. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. So by all means, just go check Google. Star Trek Adventures, the second edition. It's a very, very solid Star Trek role-playing game. It feels like Star Trek. The adventures that come out feel like Star Trek. They do focus more on source books than like adventure campaigns, but you do see adventures pop up quite often for Star Trek Adventures in PDF. I've heard a lot of folks say very good things about Starborg from J.P. Couvert. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have not seen it. I mean, okay, I've seen it in PDF. I have not actually seen inside the PDF. But a lot of people have said it's really, really nicely done. And of course, if you're looking for something that's got maybe a little bit of an OSR vibe to it, also going to be fairly rules light because it is built off of Mirkborg. And it does seem to have like a Star Wars vibe to it, or at least a space opera vibe to the proceedings. There is that. We also have the award-winning Stars Without Number from Sign Nominate Publishing, written by Kevin Crawford. That is kind of the role-playing game that put the Without Number system on the map. And I have always heard that it is just absolutely fantastic as far as a toolkit to use for any science fiction role-playing game. Some discussion about like Cyborg for a cyberpunk world. Obviously, if you're looking cyberpunk, be sure to take a peek at Cyberpunk Red. I mean, that's, in my opinion, the go-to. So Strike Kismet says, Clement Sector uses open resource on the art, save for their ships. Danny Gable says, that's just what AI would say. Yeah. Take that with you. Dan Webb also points out, Traveler was the first role-playing game they played with complete strangers. Ken King says, well, if they can't afford Traveler, I guess there's always Warhammer. I wouldn't point people in the direction of any Warhammer 40K role-playing game. Not if you're looking for, like, space opera. If you're looking grimdark, hell yeah. I would definitely tell you, yeah, you got a couple of options there with the Warhammer 40K from Cubicle 7 Games. But as far as something that's, like a Space Odyssey sort of role-playing game, I probably wouldn't point them in that direction. We also have Star Frontiers, easily available in PDF over at DriveThruRPG. Price-wise, I would assume we're looking at like the core box set, probably like $9.95, somewhere in that vicinity. I also understand that some of the old TSR stuff is getting a heavier focus on print on demand from DriveThruRPG. That's not something I've actually taken a deep dive into, but there is that. And then, of course, you also have Traveler. the venerable champion of science fiction role-playing games. So if you keep your eyes peeled, you can usually find some really good money-saving bundles a few times a year that are going to feature the GDW Traveler. And then, of course, currently it is Mongoose Traveler 2nd edition. If you keep your eyes peeled with that, you will also find money-saving bundles from time to time. And a lot of times you'll find with the Mongoose Publishing bundles, like if it's with Humble Bundle, you might see like 25 PDFs for $30, $35. I mean, when we're talking Mongoose Publishing, that is a smoking deal. So those are some options that are available for you. There are some that are just hugely popular, really well supported. Some other stuff there that's, yeah, maybe worth taking a peek at. Some other, like Dune, the RPG, excellent, really good role-playing game if you're looking to kind of simulate the politics of Dune. Their campaigns were pretty good too. Dan Webb says, not related to tonight's theme. There you go. Fanatical has a Symborum bundle. It's $14.99 for 25 PDFs. So I will have to guess that it includes Symborum as well as Ruins of Symborum. Kevin King says, I suppose Star Crawlers, Dungeon Crawl Classics in Space is too gonzo. I don't know anything about it. So that's why that's the first mention I've ever seen of it. So it wasn't included because I don't know anything about it. So there you go. All right. Let's wrap up in chat, and then I am going to call it a night. So yeah, W4 says Dune is more focused on the political side of science fiction. Well, I'll tell you what, as far as Dune went, and I think Modiphius Entertainment is done with Dune. I think they've released everything they were planning on releasing for it. Pretty cool campaign. It's kind of like your family replaces the Atreides. And they did a really nice job with that. That was pretty cool. Got to be honest, I'm trying to remember if they actually wrapped that campaign up. But yes, so yes, the Symborum is one of, like I said, I think there's like 5 new role-playing game bundles over at Fanatical. I will start getting news pieces out for them. And Semper Buffo also points out Dune mechanics, very similar Star Trek Adventures. Yep, 2D20 on that one as well. Semper Buffo says they're done until the next film. Which, funny enough, really not the film that they were kind of following along in their campaign. It is closer to the book, I thought. Although the movie's pretty close to the book. Tabletop Scholar asks, do you have a preferred release of Tunnels and Trolls? I only have one release of Tunnels and Trolls, and it is the deluxe edition, which is behind me here. That was the last edition that they had a print run for, and that is probably about 10 years old, 8 years old, thereabouts. I think Tunnels and Trolls is very cool. I think where Tunnels and Trolls starts to kind of fall apart a little bit is higher level, because you're chucking tons of dice. It would not be unheard of to have players chucking 50 six-sided dice at higher level combat, which starts to get kind of ridiculous. And then there's like rules like, well, you know, you trim it down, but then you kind of defeat the purpose, right? It's like, as you get better, you're like, yeah, I'm more powerful. I got more dice to roll. Not where it's like, well, you know, divide by 10 and roll that number of dice. Okay. One big selling point of Tunnels and Trolls, though, lots of solitaire adventures. They're, of course, of the create your own adventure vibe. But it wasn't just, oh, if you do this, go to this page. If you do that, go to this page. It was, if you defeat this monster and here's its stat block, go to this page. All right. So that is it for this time out. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watch live and took part in chat, you get a tip of the cap. Because not only are you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company as I'm sharing the news or pontificating about a topic, what have you. Kind of keep chat flowing along. Much appreciated. But of course, I also know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. It really does mean a lot. And we have passed the 17,000 subscriber mark. I do wish more of the subscribers actually watch the videos, though. I think that might be working against me, but still. Yep. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Because it'll not only let you know, hey, come on, let's go. There you go. Look what the hell's going on. Graphic didn't launch. Damn you, graphic. Anyway, don't forget, ring that bell because it'll not only let you know when the dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings, right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my unboxing and first look at Warhammer 40,000 Darktide, the card game from Cubicle 7 Games. When you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will never find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.